Welcome, everyone, to the Fenton Perspective here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com and also replayed over at Michael Vara's WCET.com radio network and home of Late Night in the Midlands radio show. And I am now on a new... Oh, my God, I can't find my notes. What in the heck? Oh, this is so depressing. Anyhow, I'm on another new network. And it is with Jerry, Dean, and Brett, and I can't believe I've lost my notes. I'm going through all of my sticky notes that I had up here. They all fell down. Oh, no. Okay, now this is not happening. Let's try this. Let's go through that. No, it's not it. Okay, you guys, sorry about this. It's been an interesting week. I will get the name of the network up here in a second. There it is. No, that's somebody else's. It is, I think, the American... Oh, I'm not going to say it wrong. I'm just going to wait and find it. I know it's here. I can't believe I'm doing this to Jerry and Brett. Okay, well, I'll find it. I believe it is American Liberty Truth or something to that effect. Okay, top of the hour. I'm going to get it correct, and I'll make them happy because today's my debut on their network. So, how crazy of me. All right, so I can't find that. I give up, and we'll find it later. All right, so, you guys, it's been a wild week. I don't even know where to begin, okay? I don't know if I want to rant, rave, or go crazy. I think I'm doing all three permanently, but we'll see. Here's what's been going on. I've got an impacted tooth. I've got an abscess. I've got all kinds of pain. I'm in a horrible situation. And here's the problem. I can't go to the hospital. I can't go to the dentist. I can't go anywhere. You know why? Because they're infringing upon my rights, my constitutional rights. And here's the problem. I won't answer the three stupid questions. I will, however, wear a mask and stay 6 feet away from everybody because they're all idiots and I don't want to be anywhere near them and have to talk to them. That's number one. And number two, the third thing is I will not have them stick a Q-tip up my nose into my brain. Sorry, it isn't going to happen. I didn't sign up for that. That's not part of the deal. It ain't going to happen. If they want to take a blood sample and find out if I've got COVID that way and call me back 24 hours later, I'd be happy to accommodate them. But they won't let me in a blood bank to do it without answering the three questions. They're all contact tracing questions, and I won't answer them. I'm in California, and it's really bad here. It's communist California all over again, and it's just, I don't know what to do. Really don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. You guys, if anybody knows a dentist in California that isn't playing by their rules, please tell me, because I can't take this much longer, and here's what's going to happen. If I pursue this and I get an attorney to go with me to the ER or the dental clinic or wherever the hell I got to go, it's going to get ugly, and then I'm going to be kicked off my insurance. So, here's the deal. They're holding me hostage because they know I've got to have that insurance, but they're going to kick me off of it if I start causing problems. And I'm not going to play their game. So I've got to find somebody who will see me and not play the game. It's really important that people fight back and not do this. I don't even know how to describe the inaneness of these questions. Let me go over them briefly, because if I start talking too long today, I'm going to really blow a gasket. So I'm going to bring my guest on a little earlier than usual, but I am furious. I am beyond furious about these stupid three questions. Number one, have you been out of the country lately? Well, okay, if you're an illegal alien sneaking over the border from Mexico, yeah, I've been out of the country. But I haven't been able to get on a flight for freaking out of the country for a year. So why are they asking such a stupid freaking question? And if I'm an illegal alien and I just got back from Mexico to my dishwasher job at a restaurant that's closed down anyhow, then what in the hell? Why would I tell them the truth? Okay? So they're relying on you to tell them the truth. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Okay? Of course, an illegal alien who's just jumped over the border is not going to tell you that they've just jumped over the border. How dumb are these people? I mean, really? I just can't even believe how stupid they are. Okay, question number 2. Have you had diarrhea or a temperature or a headache or a sore throat in the last few days or a week or whatever? And I'm going to say, yeah, I have one every day. I have a headache because of you people. you know, what am I going to tell these guys? I mean, I'm going to, if I say yes, I've had a headache, they're going to say, oh, you can't come in because you got COVID. You got to get tested. And I'm thinking, I got migraines, man. You know what? Are you kidding me? So that's stupid question number 2. And of course, if you've had them, you're going to lie to get into the hospital. I mean, get in to get your checkup or whatever. Because you know that you're going to be in lockdown mode for 14 days if you tell them the truth. If you tell them the truth, you can't go to work. If you tell them the truth, you can't function. Sure, I'm going to tell them I got a headache, so I can't go to work for 2 weeks. Are you kidding me? Okay, sorry. I'm losing my voice. I've got a little bit of bronchitis going on, and I know what it is. It isn't COVID, but I can't go get treated for it because if I walk in the door, they'll tell me I've got COVID. So, okay, question number 3. Let's see, what did I hit? I hit the out of the country, been sick. Shoot, I can't even remember what the third one is right now. For the life of me, I can't remember what it is. It's another stupid question. As a matter of fact, I had someone tell me what they were, and I didn't make it beyond question number 2 before I blew a gasket at the clinic I go to and demanded to see the manager of the place. So, and then I threatened to sue her. So. I never made it beyond 2. I think the third one is have you been around anybody who was diagnosed with COVID-19? And I'm like, yeah, me. I was diagnosed with it a year ago. I've had it. So there you go. So anyhow, I mean, talk about crazy, crazy stuff. I'm telling you guys, I'm going to take an attorney and I'm going to have to just have someone go with me to the ER and say, these are our parameters of what she will do to see you. And if you don't treat her, we're going to sue you for $1 million. I mean, I don't know what else to do at this point. This is insanity. It's just the only thing I can think of is total insanity, and everybody is answering these stupid contact tracing questions, and if you've got half a brain in your head, you're lying because a lot of people don't feel good all the time. And if you answer, well, yeah, I had a headache the other day, they're going to go, oh, we got to stick this thing up your nose and make sure you're not sick, because that's what they're doing here in California. If you present with anything like this when you go to a doctor's office or a clinic or any place like that, they shove that thing up your nose in 2 seconds flat to make sure you don't have COVID. I'm surprised they're letting anybody in without doing that first. I mean, I'm shocked about that, and they're asking 3 stupid questions, but the whole thing is just stupid. If you've got COVID, you got COVID. Just go to the hospital and deal with it, or not actually, I didn't mean that. I meant to don't go to the hospital. Deal with it at home, because that's, if you go to the hospital, they will kill you, okay? Okay, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to calm down, and I'm going to tell you guys a quick story. Then we're going to get to my guest. I have a very dear friend whose wife and he both got COVID recently. And he got really, really sick. He couldn't tell that she had it. That was the issue. He didn't think she did. I sent them to AmericasFrontlineDoctors.com. AmericasFrontlineDoctors.com. That is where you go if you've got COVID. Do not, and I repeat, more than I've ever repeated myself ever in the 10 years I've been on this show. This is very important, you guys. Listen to me and listen to me carefully. Do not go to the hospital to get cured of COVID. They will either kill you or damage you or do something to you, because that is the mandate. Because I'm telling you, it's evil in the hospitals. Whatever they're doing, it's very evil. Anyhow, getting further down the road here, I got him to call America's Frontline Doctors and get treated, and he's going to be fine. His wife ended up in the hospital, and she's dying. They took her home to die today because of the complications and this and her issues, and they won't help her, and she's got COVID, and they won't touch her, and they won't even send hospice to the house. I mean, it's disgusting what these people are doing. Disgusting. And I'm so angry today, I can't even think. So tell me, please promise me, not tell me, but promise me, because I'm not talking to my friend on the phone here, but please promise me, you guys, do not go to the hospital. Call, you can make an appointment for $90. That's all it is, $90 plus the price of the medications, whatever they send to you. Don't forget about Good RX. Good RX will give you a big discount on the medication. So for around $150, you can get cured of COVID without having to deal with these creeps at the hospitals who are killing people. Okay? Everybody I know that has gone to America's Frontline Doctors is fine. They're absolutely fine. Nobody's died that I've even heard of. And I keep calling, and I call my friends who are part of that group, and they say no one's died yet that they know of. So, please promise me you'll do that. That's really important to me because I'm really upset about what's going on out there. In the meantime, I've got to deal with a tooth that's killing me, and I don't know what to do about it. So if you guys could help me in return for my horrible advice that the AMA would just shoot me for if they heard me giving it to you. If you guys know of any dentist in California, Northern California to be specific, I will drive 100 miles to see them if I have to, or 200. I mean, I just do not want to go into their clinics, because if I do, I don't know what they'll do to me in there, honestly. I'm such a pain in the ass that I think I might be targeted, honestly. So I'm going to leave it at that. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, you guys. I'm really upset about this whole thing. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. So I'm bringing on my guest, and she's going to lighten my day. I'll tell you what. It's I Am. Her name is Daniela Weems. Am I saying this correctly, Daniela?
Yes, Holloway Weems.
Holloway Weems. There we go. Okay. But I'm going to call you Daniela or I Am. How's that sound?
You can just say I.
Okay, I'm gonna call you I for today. That'll be perfect. All right, and I is she's a psychic. She's a contactee, I believe. She's all these things, and she's just got a fascinating story I thought you guys might enjoy hearing today. It'll brighten your day because she's had some amazing things happen, and a lot of them are interesting, a lot of them are scary, and I think in the end they're all good. Right, I?
You know what? I'm at that space as well.
I think, because that's really what it is. You get down to it when it's all said and done, and you sit in it with love, and it all turns out good. I mean, that's really the bottom line. I think that's what God created for us.
Oh, I'm going to agree with that.
Yeah, good. Okay, so why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, like what do you do for a living, and, I know you're an artist, so I think that's really cool, and tell them some of the things you do, and then start, from when you were a kid, because it really does. It starts in the house in Oakland, California, when you were a child, so we'll go from there. So you take the floor. It's all yours.
Okay, so what I do, I am a spoken word artist. I am a painter. I am a writer. I am a motivational speaker, life coach, spiritual counselor, manifestation teacher. I do readings. Yeah, that's my work background.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm going to have to be muting off and on because I'm coughing and I'm losing my voice. So I'm trying not to talk too much. But it's okay. If I make it through this show, I might make it through the second one tonight. I've got 4 hours of yakking, so I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to be a good listener today, But, tell everybody how you met me.
UFO Con.
Yay, UFO Con. We love UFO Con. So anyhow, Danielle was there, and I saw her picture when she sent it over. When a friend of ours, Eric, said, "Oh, I've got a couple women for you to get on your radio show and stuff," and I went, "Okay, cool." And he said, you might recognize her. And I was like, what? Okay. So she sends her picture over and I looked at it and I went, I know this woman. I know this woman. And I couldn't figure out where I knew her from. And sure enough, we get on the phone and start yakking. It turns out she was at UFO Con. And people don't know this, but I remember everybody that comes to my conferences. And I see pretty much the same 200 to 300 people every year. And each year, though, it grows by 10, 20 people that heard about the event and they show up and then they always come back. It's pretty crazy. Right,
Yeah, that was my first time. I had a friend who was just going. She was like, I'll pay for you to go. And I'm like, UFO Con, I don't know, but I'll go with you. And that was my first one.
And it blew you away, didn't it?
It did. It blew me away, and then I had to fish myself back.
I know. Everybody that comes to my conference leaves there, and they look at me, and they're either smiling a lot or they look very upset. And I'm
It's
like,
almost like you need seatbelts. You know, some people are prepared for roller coasters. Others are just not.
yeah.
Needs seatbelts.
Yeah, I'm telling you, because it's just like you go, oh my God, this is all real. That's what the people walk out of with, that shocked look on their face, and they look at me and they go, it's all real, isn't it? And I go, yeah, it is. And they just go, oh my God. And then I don't hear from them for like 6 months, and then they'll email me and they go, are you putting on the next conference?
And see, for me, I know it's so real. That's why my friend invited me, because she had heard of my experiences and just like, come on, this will be good for you. I know it's real. I just,
I know.
it was a lot to drink in.
It was, especially because these guys are the heavy hitters of the UFO community. I mean, it's like, oh my God, and you're sitting there going, oh my God, how do these people? You know, Eric is the one that blows me away. He's one of the most amazing people in the community. We're talking about Eric. Oh God, why can't I think of Eric's last name right now? Help me. What?
Eric Mitchell.
Eric Mitchell. Thank you,
Yes.
thank you. And Eric has this weird thing where he receives telepathic like sounds in his head, and you can hear him when he puts a microphone up to it. There's these frequencies coming through his skull, and it's so bizarre. And people just go, "What?" And here's the kicker: he's had the sounds analyzed, and they're actually what do you call them? Like binary code. If you transfer it into ones and zeros, it becomes binary code.
And what's funny about that is he was the relaxation of it. You know, I heard the speaker before him, and I'm just like horrified, and I'm like, oh, the world's being taken over. What is this?
Oh yeah,
And
the
him.
reptilians are coming, right?
Yeah, I'm listening to him, and I'm like, oh, okay, I feel better now. But what's even funnier was I did not. If I did get it, I didn't know. But last year around late February, early March was the first time I started downloading binary.
Oh, now that's interesting. You know, you're not the first one I've heard this from. As soon as people leave my conference for some weird reason, if they're like a real contactee, a lot of them will start having what I call, downloads on many levels. And yours happened to be binary code, right?
Yes, I download all the time, but binary, it was because sometimes you get the ringing.
Oh, yeah.
And I would hear it, but the way it would beep almost like a longer and a shorter. And I don't know if it's because I have been into physics and seeing binary a lot, because it happens in life. And I never thought it was anything other than random sounds in my head. But last year I was like, I wonder what happens if I turn this into ones and zeros. And my friend helped me, and we're looking, and it was all other than my name. So it was the I with the dashes and the quotes. Other than that, every other set of numbers was the money symbol in different languages.
Oh, wow. That's a trip. I haven't even
Yeah, it
heard
is,
that
'cause
one
I
yet.
I
That's
had
new.
I had to go into the internet to use a binary converter, because I don't know how to study binary. I don't know the letters. I don't know any of that. And as we're punching it in, it was all coming back money symbols from
God.
different countries.
That is so cool. I love it. But yeah, the money thing, now that is so cool. That means you're running on a frequency of abundance to me.
Well,
That's what it's
thank you for
kind of
that. I
telling
needed
me.
that right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're downloading that instead of, like don't build atomic weapons, they're going to blow you up, or don't go to CERN, you'll turn into a mutant time traveler, I mean, you wouldn't believe the things people are getting as downloads. I mean, it's just blowing my mind. But
And you know me, if I get told to not go to CERN, I would be so devastated because the only reason I'm practicing physics is so that I can learn enough that they would trust me in CERN. I just want to know what they're doing.
yeah, tell me about it. I know. And I've got friends whose kids work there,
Oh,
okay?
wow.
But they won't talk to me about any of this. They think their parents are crazy and they're straight, brainwashed scientists that they're pushing out of MIT. They're like, aliens don't exist. If you can't prove it by science, it isn't there. We don't have a dead body. You're nuts. That's what they tell their parents, right? And so the poor kids, they're going over there. One of them did come home from, is it Switzerland it's in? I think it is Switzerland. Anyhow, I thought it was Austria. I don't know, wherever it's at. He came home for like a holiday or something, and he told his dad something. He said, I used to think you were nuts, but he goes, sometimes I look at all the symbolism around the space we're in, and I wonder who put that there and why. So the kid's
I
starting to
thank
open
you for
up.
saying that because that was my draw to it.
I
It's my
know.
understanding that they don't really affiliate with the religions, but they have all of these, they have like Sanskrit, Arabic, and all of these things. And for me, someone who studied all of these religions, because I was trying to find one voice, one code for everyone, I saw all of those when I saw pictures of CERN. They're posted on the walls. And then they say that the reason why they called India because they were trying to mimic the energy movement of the dance of Shiva. And so I'm like, if they don't believe in this stuff, what are these words? Are they holding something in? Like, why would they hang
Exactly.
that up if they didn't believe it had a purpose in a science lab?
I know. I know. It's crazy, isn't it? I just sit here and I'm like, how come most people don't understand? It's like the Denver airport all over again.
Oh, I
I don't.
have not heard the details of that. And if it's too
Oh
much
God,
for me,
look at.
oh, Lori, and if it's too much, don't give it to me.
No, no, I gotta tell you because it's really good for your education, dear. It will blow you away, but the Denver airport has all these murals about the apocalypse all over the place. It's just a trip. You got to see it. I mean, just go online and Google it after the show to blow you away.
I
And
might
I
get
always
pulled into
wondered
the
who was
rabbit
the.
hole. You know, I'm a rabbit holer. Like, you tell me one thing and I'll be at it for months, sometimes years. Like,
Well, good. That's what you're supposed to be doing. That makes me happy. All my friends that are in my text messaging are people that are awoken and they all send me stuff every day. It'll blow your mind. You guys, I got to say this, before we go on here. I had a guy email me today. He has a major find in the UFO community, and he wants to know what I can do for him and how he can get this information out. And I honestly said to him, you know, I can't promise you anything, and that's the truth, because if you come to me, you want the truth. If you go to the other people in the community that want to make money off of it, then that's a whole nother ball of wax.
yes.
So I just want to say to people out there, I is one of those people who kind of came to me and said, I'd like to, she wants to do the radio show and stuff. And I love having her because she's real honest and fresh and has great stories to tell you guys, which we will get to, I promise. But it's like, people come to me and I wonder sometimes what's the motivation? Is it money? What is it really? And I know from you it's not. From you it's giving
Yeah.
love
You
to the
know,
world. And
that's
that's,
why I don't take pictures. Like, I don't try and catch things on camera or
yeah,
try and record experiences. For that reason, it's almost like the overwhelming need to prove. It
yes.
literally drives some people crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, tell
So a
me
lot
about
of
it.
them are really, they're not even looking for validation. What they're looking for is someone else to see it. Like, I had a bad habit of that where it's like, if nobody else is seeing this, they're going to hospitalize me. They're going to put me away. And then finally I broke myself out of that. I was like, the frequencies we resonate at. determine what we'll experience. And it also determines who else can see it or experience it. And that's usually why their pictures come out grainy, or they know they've seen it and then they save the document and it's gone. It's usually just frequency wise, but a lot of them just want someone to say, no, you're not crazy.
Absolutely. And I've had so many people on my show one time, and they just get their story out, and they know that I believe them, and they know that my audience believes them, and that's it. That's all they need. They go about their life and they're happy again, you know. But until that point, they're like freaked out because they're like, nobody believes me. I know what I saw, you know, that whole bit, right? And you know, you can beat yourself up silly over that. That's the toughest place for a contactee or an experiencer or an abductee or whatever you want to call yourself. If you've had an experience standing right next to somebody else who didn't, it is tough. It's one of the toughest things to have
Yes.
going on.
Yes.
If two of you have it together, you've got each other. It's that simple, okay? So at least you have support. I mean, even all my good friends have had events together, and I've had events with a whole bunch of people. So I know what I've experienced is real because there's too many other people corroborating the story, right? But
Yes.
that poor person who's having it all alone, like I did growing up. When I grew up, I was super psychic, and I was the only one having all my experiences. So I kind of looked at it a little differently, though, because my grandparents, both grandmothers, said to me, you know, you're a little different, so don't worry about it, and just go on with your life. You're fine. And they were always very positive for me. Whereas, you know, and like we were talking about last time we spoke, it's so funny, you know, you being the psychic one in the family, and like I read tarot cards when I was a teenager, and my whole family is like, she's nuts, she's crazy, she's this, she sees aliens or, you know, whatever, ghost or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whatever. But the first time they get a new boyfriend, man, they beeline it to my house,
Yes.
and they want a reading like in 3 seconds flat. Because you know why?
Yes.
I'm never wrong. And that blows them away too. And they don't want to admit it. I think it's a bit of jealousy too, honestly.
I softened my stance on that because with all, like, there were 10 of us. And it was
Yes.
common knowledge, like even when my cousins speak of us to this day, it's like you guys were just different. So it's common knowledge that all 10 of my parents' kids are tapped into something one way or another.
Right,
And
right.
I was talking to my sister once, and she says, um, I irritate her on a lot of levels, but she goes, one of the things I don't like about you is you talk about these things. And she says, I have a horrific fear of seeing things that are not there. And I was like, well, if you see them, then how do you
Then
know
they're
they're not there? You know? And that's what
exactly.
made me soften my stance was I realized whether she remembered or not, if it was something suppressed, or whether she did remember and preferred to not talk about it, she had to have had an experience that made her fear the unseen. So me just going along with it all willy nilly and talking about it made her uncomfortable because she also tracked my history of all the things I went through from being like, hey guys, this just happened, or I saw this, or I experienced this. Like I trust me, there was a time where they locked me away in the thinking farm. They look, they didn't even think twice about it. But it was ultimately the doctor who did my Rorschach test that freed me from that space and was like, "Oh, whoa, you're not crazy."
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was the blessing in it that, somebody has to be the lab rat. And the blessing was being diagnosed as bipolar. They were checking to see if I was schizophrenic. And finally, the doctor being like, no. The doctor did say you'll probably be misunderstood for the majority of your life because you're speaking 10, 20 years ahead. By the time people realize you were right, they probably won't even know where you are.
Yeah, it's true.
So I
That's
think there's a
absolutely
lot
true.
of people that's why they come to you or flock to you or even to me because I have friends who be like, look, I don't know what you're talking about. You should call I. But I think it's more of a resonance of like, I really can't tell if I'm crazy or not. I just need somebody who understands what I'm going through enough to tell me if I'm pushing the limit or if this is real.
Exactly. Yeah. That's super important, and that means a lot to people, you know. It really does. If there's somebody like you or myself in, in the Bay Area that, people can go to, it's really good. And I never turn anybody away. I'm sure you don't either. Even if they just want to say, hey, I saw this thing in the sky over Oakland or San Francisco or Marin or something, I'll sit and listen to them.
Yeah.
Because, if they saw it, I'm not going to say they didn't. And that is the first step in healing for these people, because they're talking, like, I get this guy calls me about 2 months ago. I saw this big old thing over Mount Burnell or wherever it was, and I'm like, really? Okay. And then he started talking about it, and I realized what he was actually seeing was the lights of the planes going into Oakland Airport, because I know exactly where he was standing. I've been there before with another person who thought that they were coming out of a mountain, the ships coming out of a
Mm-hmm.
mountain. And so I let him talk the whole thing through, and I said, I'll tell you what. If they come up to you and talk to you and land, I want you to start calling them into you. I said, I think that would be much more important than seeing them just land and take off. And I
Yeah.
said, just so start meditating, see if you can go on top of the mountain, sit there and see if you can meditate and see if you can get them to come right over the top of your head. And he was really happy with that. And so was I. You know why? Because if he is a contactee and he starts doing that, they will show up over his head,
Oh,
you know?
trust me, I know.
So there you go. So that got him less fixated on what I already know are lights coming out of the East Bay,
I
that
don't
he
know
thinks
how
are.
deep it goes, but I've heard that since the I don't like talking about it. I don't even like mentioning it, but since the solitary time the whole world is on now, a lot of people are having extraordinary experiences.
Oh, you bet. You
Yeah,
bet.
almost like the separation, which I do believe. I was told something was happening. I didn't know what. So that was September of 2019. I didn't know what was coming, but I was
Yeah.
told about it. And all I did was I asked to be moved from my location, and I was. By November, I was in a new home in a quieter spot, but I was told that something was coming, and it had something to do with telepathy and interconnectivity. And I think that the separation from each other, if we sit still enough, what people are learning is that it's not one or two or five. Everybody is an empath. Everybody is telepathic. We're all interconnected no matter how much we separate ourselves.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and it's super important that people feel validated for their experience. And I think that's the most important thing we're talking about. So, anyhow, let's move on and let's go back into your childhood.
Okay, let's
Start
do it.
telling people about the stories about around your house and all the crazy things that happened, and then we'll move on eventually after the break. Probably we'll get there to the back porch in Oakland and what you were seeing, and all the cool things that have happened to you. So
Okay, so
anyhow,
let's
I'm gonna let you
literally
take the
start.
floor, and I'm gonna go mute for a minute.
Okay. So we're starting at childhood. The first experiences I can remember from now that I would perceive to be otherworldly is we moved into a home that I later found out my father did not like at all because he felt like it was something off. But we moved in and strange things were happening, the dreams. So that's the first place I started having nightmares. And the only memory that I have that made me study outside of religious phenomena was being a kid and standing on the windowsill. And I would see a light, a bright light, and then the bright light would pull back and I would come off the windowsill and come in the house. This happened multiple times in the same house. And then in that same house is where I started having nightmares um, about bugs, of all things. But the energy of the nightmares followed me up until my 15th year.
Oh,
And
you
once I,
got to describe the bugs now. You got to go into detail about those dang bugs. That is
okay,
so cool.
I can
Yeah.
tell the dream of it. I could tell the dream and the way it pulled into reality. So in the dreamscape, we were sitting in a room. There was a crowd, and there was one guy, and he had like where you pull the screen down for the projector, and he was talking about everything being in balance. He said, "Okay, the spiders are in balance. The bees are in balance," and he said, "But those ants." And when he pulled the blind and the blinds rolled up, I could just see all of these thousands and thousands of ants. I was a kid. It could have been millions for all I know. And they were trooping towards where we were sitting. And my instant response as a child was to jump up and run. But I was on the top bunk. So in real life, I actually jumped up and I ran. And when I ran into the room where my mom and my aunt were, different things were morphing into ants. So either the toy would be an ant, the tobacco from the cigarettes where my aunt was sitting turned into about 1-2 inch ants and was trooping out of the ashtray and across the floor. Now, my mother, she didn't want me touching her. She didn't know what was going on. But my aunt's yelling at my mom. She's like, Jan, something is wrong with her. Look at her. She sees something. There's something wrong with her. We got to figure it out. But it was just ants everywhere. My mom was a little frustrated. And she finally gets me quiet enough. I was more afraid of my mom than these ants. And she takes me to her side of the house to lay in the bed with her. And she's telling me to be quiet and just go to sleep. My mom was a stern woman. And I was scared to get in trouble. So I laid there quiet. But as I laid there, what I felt was first the walls got dark, like they were piling on the walls. It was like the middle of the ceiling, just ants piled through. The whole room gets dark. And it was as if they trooped up onto the bed and climbed on top of my body and just compressed me. Like I could feel the weight of what felt like a lot of energy piling on top of me. And this same phenomena persisted nightly, especially nightly for years. But until I was 15, they stopped touching me. They would cover the walls, but they stopped touching me when I was around 15 years old. And I don't know I still to this day don't know what the ants represent or why it was ants of all things, but that was the ants. Everything around me kept turning into ants. Everything, like I can try and give some symbolism.
Now, the cool part about your ants are they range in size from normal little red ants up to 3 inches long, right?
Yes, from the way the things they would morph into. It was different sizes. So the original image, which is funny because I later became an exterminator. So I know that they're Argentine ants. But the original size, the black ants, the regular Argentine ants, the regular ants that might troop across the counter, that was in the dream. That's what was coming towards us. It was just a huge black pile of them coming towards where we were sitting. But when I woke up, it was like things were colliding together to make these ants.
Okay. That's really a trip. I'm telling you. I haven't ever heard that one before. That was a new one.
Me either. That's what blew my mind when my dad told me don't go back and visit the house, because he says that house is something wrong with it. He says, I remember when we moved there, they tried to convince us that we were having hallucinations, but I know they weren't hallucinations because everybody was seeing the same thing. He said with hallucinations, people see different things. There wasn't a gas leak. There wasn't anything wrong with the water. These weren't hallucinations. Something was happening there, and it was something not good.
Wow. So did your dad see ants too, or bugs, or?
My dad saw the Shadow Man.
Oh, he saw the Shadow Man. Oh my God. Okay. Well, do you want to go to the shadow people next, or what? I thought that there was much more that happened in that house, though.
It was my sister hallucinated. All of us hallucinated in that house. We were.
Well, I call it having visions. I don't necessarily, or portals into other dimensions, or yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the portals, because I still believe that there's just a portal in that area of Oakland.
Right. We talked about that at length, and I want to bring it up because I think it's super important too. I know that where you're talking about. I know that area pretty well, and I drive through Oakland and I hit that area, and I swear I always have since I moved here in the early 80s. I think it was 82 I moved to the Bay Area. I would drive into that area and I would feel like everybody is suppressed and they can't get out of this amazing oppression. And I used to think it was just because of poverty and conditions in Oakland, right? Mm-hmm. But if you go to the outskirts of it, if you get to the edges of that area, that 1 or 2 block area, if you get around it, it's completely different feel. It's like it changes.
Yeah, I've had the most touch experiences in that area.
Isn't
It's
that
like
interesting?
something that you feel like when I was talking to you about my grandmother's house with the spirits in it, it was in that area.
Oh,
And
wow.
at first, the family thought it was something about the owner of my grandmother's house because she lived in a house and the owner owned multiple houses in that area, but he owned the house directly across the street from my grandmother. And my aunt lived there. And one night, my aunt went out with her friends, and me and my cousin are looking out the window. And there's a guy in my aunt's room upstairs, but my cousin, it's her mom. She lives there, so she knows there's no one in the house. And my grandmother, without hesitation, she says, "Don't go over there to see who that is." She said, "No, you guys gonna stay here. Don't go over there." And later on, my aunt told my mom the same thing in her house. She said, like in my aunt's kitchen, whether she was cooking or not, it was like a sweet feeling and almost smelled like cake. And my aunt would say, "That's a guppy. That's a good spirit." There would be other places you go in the house, though, that felt almost like you were being poked or attacked. And she said the same room that we saw the man standing in the window, she said she had a couple of nights where first she felt like somebody was in the room, and then it progressed to this thing slamming on the bed to wake her up
Wow.
out of her sleep. So we just thought it was ghosts. That was when I was a teenager. We
Well, you
thought it
know
was
what?
ghosts.
It might be I mean, it could be ghost. I mean, trust me, there's a bit of everything when you're dealing with this other dimensional
I
stuff.
think it's a loose veil there. Ghosts,
Yeah,
ghosts.
exactly.
I just think the veil is real loose there. Like, and it doesn't help that Highland is there, and they have a
Oh,
tricky
yeah.
psych history in that area. Um,
Well, yeah, there was a Lawrence Livermore mind control experiment going on there. And what's even weirder is up in Berkeley, not too far from you guys, is where Philip K. Dick was being monitored by the mind control people. And I mean, that whole, the whole East Bay to me is a big experiment.
I didn't even know
Because
about the Philip Dick thing.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, that's another whole story for another day. I mean, poor Philip. I mean, people. He was extraordinary. I mean, he wrote all those amazing science fiction books, but people don't realize he was an experiment for the mind control community. About the same time, Kaczynski was being mind controlled over at Harvard. They were
And
doing a.
something about our last conversation made me try and research what you were saying is because I remember you talking to me about the difference between certain shadow figures and what was going on in the
Oh yeah,
80s. And that blew my mind to the point where I was like, I gotta figure this out, because I've been tracking what seems like two different levels of it.
yes,
And one of them is more connected to something in the unseen realm because I've tracked as I was inspired to do. I've tracked these serial killers and their need to write to the newspaper, and they have this similar confession, like one being is touching through all of these people. And then I
yep.
started going through other people's experiences, like the personal assault and beatings and the rapes. And I was just like, whoa, it was so funny how that one conversation helped me to find the equilibrium.
Yeah, and you got to remember these guys are all being okay. I don't know if I told you the story. Did I tell you to go to John Carmen's site, John
Mm-mm.
Cameron, the Zodiac Killer site? Because these guys, Charles Manson, and most people don't know this. Most people haven't even looked into this. Charles Manson and the Zodiac Killer, if it is the guy we think it is, and eight other prisoners were under mind control experiments in 1950 or 51 at Deerfield Prison in
Oh
Montana.
my God.
And yeah, nobody knows about this. But it's so weird. The Zodiac Killer always was trying to outdo Manson, I thought, because they were around the same time, but the Zodiac got away with tons more mayhem than Manson ever did. Anyhow, long story short, I think you're right about where it all comes from, because if they're mind controlled into becoming killers, the programming's all the same. At least it was back then. So
And that's what makes me want to get into the physics, the science, CERN, because it all almost like a weird correlation. Like when I first heard of CERN, it was from interdimensionals. It wasn't like I woke up and was like, "Oh, there's a hadron collider somewhere." I didn't even know what a hadron
What? I
collider
seriously,
was.
I did. I can't remember you telling me that. That's so cool.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything. I just remember, and keep in mind, I'm in a dreamscape. I don't know what it was. It looked like you ever seen the show Stargate that I never watched, but I know what the Stargate looks like.
Yeah,
And
I wasn't a big fan because I already lived all that, so I was
yeah,
like,
so I
yeah,
never
who cares?
watched it, but I was in this dreamscape and I'm this guy and I'm moving through, but there's a voice telling me the whole time that I'm going through this experience, just go along with it. Because when I snap back into myself often, I'll snap back in and be like, wait, why am I doing this? It's not me. But they were like, just go along with it, follow the path. And so I did, and he buys some things and he goes to visit the temple. He makes an offering and he goes to work at this place that looks like a weird science place. And I saw the word ramen on the badge, so I thought that was his name. And he walks
Oh,
into this room where this scientist is talking about what they're doing. And I remember saying, look, I can't do it again. I don't want to kill all of those people. And she's kind of like, this is what it takes to save the many. Like, get your ish together. The way she looks at me. And I woke up out of that and I didn't understand what it was, saving something to do with physics. And I find this Hadron Collider and I was like, oh, I'm going to look for this guy to see if I can find some guy named Raman who's Indian that works for this place. Turns out Raman was the entire section of CERN where they called these people
oh,
from India in to work. But before
wow.
that, I knew nothing. I knew nothing of it. I knew nothing about what was happening or anything like that. It's just something with CERN. And so when I studied CERN, I found that when they did certain experiments, I guess they were harvesting dark matter and they,
Wow.
they hid it in the town, I guess in a college. Well, the people in the town started to see horrific apparitions.
Oh
They
my God.
associated this with the dark matter, and so they had to move it underground. So when I
Now,
correlate that with what you're talking about, it's like science is cool, but there's also so much that we don't understand as humans that everything is not under our control, even when it's us running the experiment. And I think certain people who do certain rituals, they do the same thing without CERN's equipment. And they just don't understand that that's what they're doing.
I agree. Yeah, a lot of people like I think Aleister Crowley and oh my God, I'm trying to think of all their names. Boy, why is it Parsons and even the Scientology dude? I can't remember his name right now either off the top of my head. But all those guys were playing around with another dimension with ET. Because Crowley, remember he had that entity that he brought forward that he thought was like a demon, but it actually looks like a gray.
Oh no, honey, I
Oh
did not
yeah.
hear that.
Oh yeah, it's a trip, man. I'm telling you. And people just don't connect. I mean, I have friends of mine that are into covens and witchcraft and all that stuff, and they do the OTO or they do something, whatever. Anyhow, point to all this is, I even have friends that belonged to the Church of Satan many years ago and all this stuff, and I'm looking at these guys and I go, they don't get the crossover. They don't even understand it. They're Aleister Crowley devotees, and they don't even understand that they're dealing with Aleister Crowley's downloads from a gray alien. And I'm sitting there going,
I've
okay,
met a
seriously?
gray, I've seen a gray, I've experienced a gray, and I have a respect for them and what they can do with their minds, what they can do to our minds. But that is a
Exactly.
very tricky energy because I remember being wide awake and coming out of it and trying to explain what happened. I was wide awake though when it happened. I wasn't asleep, so it wasn't like I could go, oh, it was a bad dream. But the first impulse, and it happened for months, where every time I wanted to tell someone to the point where I just started telling people to break this chain of mind control, where as soon as I would bring it up, it would be like, what are you talking about? You didn't see a gray. Why are you lying to people? And I'm like inside of my head, inside of myself saying, no, I saw you. I'm not lying to people. Get out of my head. It's a
Oh, now
very
see there.
powerful mental capability that
Oh
we
my
have.
God! I gotta tell you something. You're gonna. I don't think I told you this in the last show. I may have. I don't remember. But I saw this triangle craft over this house in Anaheim in 2011. And when I got home from that whole experience, about 2 weeks after I got home, I woke up one morning and I felt like somebody'd been in my head
Mm-hmm.
and they had taken away thoughts and memories. And I thought, what's going on here? I've never felt this before. And I realized that I had seen a UFO. It was like it was a
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a first time thought. Oh, I saw a UFO, but it was like the first time I ever thought it. It was really strange.
It's just so weird.
And then I had to force myself to remember what it looked like. And this went on for 3 days, and they kept taking it out, and I'd put it back in, and taking it out, and I put it back in. Finally, the third day, I drew a picture of what I saw, and I put it by the bed. For 6 months after that, I'd wake up every morning, and they'd remove it, and I go look at the picture, and it would come back. It was like it was so bizarre.
Yes,
And then
I had that same exact experience with the gray, and it went from what was a both of us being intrigued by the power of the other's mind, that after
exactly.
about 7 months it shifted frequency just to hang out, to the point where when another gray showed up, I could tell the difference between the two.
Oh wow! Now
Yeah, I
that's
started calling
interesting.
this one Jobby. Like, it's a funny story, and people laugh at me because I called it Jobby, because I wasn't supposed to see it. It botched its job.
Javi, yeah, because he
I was
botched
like,
his job. I
as
love it.
far as I know, I'm not supposed to see it. And then I did all of this research. So here's what happened. Talk about compassion codes.
Well, let me quickly finish up my thought on the memory thing, and then we'll go into that because we're going to hit a break here in a couple minutes, and I
Okay.
don't want you to start one story and we'll have to cut it off. Okay, so yeah, that's why I'm doing this to you. This is called steering the conversation for the break. That's it. That's radio talk, folks. Anyhow, so basically, after about 6 months, I woke up one day and I said, "Stop doing this. Why are you doing this?" And they said to me, "Well, we wanted to be sure that you knew how powerful we were." I said, "I already know how powerful you are. You don't have to play games with me, so don't do that ever again." And they never have. I mean, it
Tricky,
was
some
basically.
of us, some of us.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't, they didn't use the word powerful. They just said that we want you to know, that we can do this and we do it to people. And you
And
know
what's
what?
funny that you would say that is mine has been the other way around, but I guess it's because it's been outside of grace, because they always go the other way around. It's almost like you have to claim your sovereignty. You
Oh,
have
well,
to
that's
claim
it.
control of the
Yeah.
mind.
Well, that's what happened. I basically said to them, I said, why do you have to take it away from people? I mean, why can't we all just remember this? This is important. And they said, because some people can't handle it. You can.
See? How weird is that?
I know. It's just really odd to me. I
And
don't know. I don't
I
get
didn't
it.
do any research on them until after my experience. And I don't know what's true and what's not true, because it was the internet. But it's talking this thing about the government made a deal with them that they could experiment on us, saving we don't remember.
Exactly. Isn't that crazy?
So it's almost like us remembering is kind of breaching their contract. So maybe we throwing a wrench into their ish, and they can't run their scientific experiments.
Well, I think that what happens, and this is just my personal opinion, I think all of us who can communicate with them or are on some kind of not even playing field, because they're so much more powerful in that arena of the mind
Yes.
control stuff than we are. I think they lack in a lot of other things like love and compassion, which would be nice, but hey, that's another story for another day. But I think they want that they take a certain amount of us that are capable of touching them or being with them or being on their frequency easier than other people. And it may be our physical chemistry that actually helps us be that way. Like, most of the contactees are Rh negative blood. That doesn't mean there isn't another, thing that goes on in our bodies that makes us easier to communicate with. But that seems to be one of the factors. So,
And see, that's what I thought is why I thought I shouldn't be having the experience because I'm nowhere near RH negative.
well, that
That's
doesn't mean
what freaked me
anything
out because I
though.
was like, well, why it's supposed to be negative, right? Why is this happening to me? Because as I'm looking into it and I'm going through the science of it, but
Yeah.
I know also what you're saying about the emotional aspect is very true. Like I've talked to multiple energies about that aspect of, for some of them, it's exciting the way we feel about things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure those are the good guys all the time, but you never know.
You,
We are live on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We're also replayed over at Michael Vara's WCET.com radio network, home of Michael Vara's Late Night in the Midlands Radio, and now replayed again over at American Alert Guardians Network, the Jerry Dean and Brett Network. I'm very excited that they've asked me to be over there. So we'll be, we got three networks now. We're, gosh, you know what? In about a month or two, I'll bet there's going to be more because I've got some really amazing things happening in my life. And we're starting the Make Contact TV network. And it's been, you guys, I keep promising it's going to happen. It will happen. Every time I make one step forward with it, I get two steps back. We're dealing with music royalty issues right now. And I got to pay the big bucks because this is going to be on internet television, on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV and all that. So what I've decided to do is hire my friends to write music and do it for me. So I just pay them once, like, $50. And then I have that music forever and I own all the rights to it. And this is going to take some time. So that's the issue I'm dealing with right now. So I think once we're over that hurdle, I got over you don't want to know about all the hurdles with the different networks because they have to approve you. And trust me, I don't think they're going to approve Conspiracy Truth TV. I might have to rename that one. Anyhow, long story short, Make Contact TV, if we can get that one up and I can start getting the programming out there, the rest of it will be easier. It'll be much easier. So there we go with that. Now, makecontacttv.com. I would check it out probably closer to the end of the month because I've got to hire people and it's going to take me a couple of weeks to get that done. I think I have a friend. You're not going to believe this. I'm going to hit my old boyfriend from high school. He's in Palm Springs, actually, and I'm going to see if he will do stuff for me for free. Nothing like 50 years later hitting somebody up for a freebie. I'm telling you, too funny. So I've got that going on. And UFO Con's coming. Don't forget, March 5th, 6th, and 7th. We have some extraordinary speakers for you. It is just going to be mind-boggling. And it's going to be online. And we're supposed to launch today, but it's probably going to be tomorrow because I was too tired last night to finish getting the PayPal buttons up, and I'm almost done getting the speakers done. So, yeah, the site's coming along. I'll have a schedule up in the next few days as well, and it will be live. I've been thinking about pre-recording 2 or 3 of the speakers because I need to. There's a long story as to why, but most everybody's going to be live, and yeah, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to play games at 6 p.m. on Friday night, the 5th, when we open. And we're going to have a producer with a movie afterwards that you guys can watch. We'll give you a passcode to it on, Amazon or Netflix or what have you. And we're just going to kind of have a fun Friday night opener. And then the real stuff begins on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. We'll have all the speakers start, and it's going to run all the way through till, I think we're going to start at 10 a.m. and go to 7 or 8 p.m. both Saturday and Sunday. So a lot of speakers, a lot of very new information and new speakers you've never heard of. And it's going to literally blow everybody's mind again. But, that's what we're here for. We got to keep your minds blown. What good are we if we don't blow you up? So there we go. So you're going to want to go to UFOcon2021.com and check that out. And in the meantime, get over to MUFONMarinSonoma.com. That's MUFONMarinSonoma.com. and get your name into the email list and sign up. I've got, I'm culling my email list, and I'm getting everything off MailChimp. I bought a new email program and I'm getting out of there. I hate MailChimp. I know a lot of people love it and it's free and what have you, but you can't have multiple accounts for free for different organizations. That upsets me because I represent different people for work, and it's their email list. I don't own it, but I manage it, and I'm fighting with MailChimp right now because they won't let me manage 3 or 4 different businesses' email without paying for it because it's my email address as the admin. And I'm like, you guys are idiots. If they wanted to pay you, they would pay you, but they don't. You offer 2,000 names for free. They don't have anything close to that, but now you're limiting me because of this. Anyhow, long story short, I'm in a battle with MailChimp right now, but it's okay. I went and took care of that. I went and bought stuff, and all my clients have it on their website for free now, and it's all good. So, yeah. There's always a way around the big guys if you just think outside the box. It's very simple, folks. So there you go. Okay, let's see what else is going on. Yeah, visit LorianFenton.com. There's lots of things that'll be posted up there in the next month or so. I'm starting another new adventure over there. MUFON Marin Sonoma's doing all online meetings right now. And if you go over there in the next few weeks, also there was going to be a membership where you can come in and buy a membership, which will give you access to all of the past MUFON meetings and then also into the future. So that's happening, and it's just like I'm doing all this between working 40 hours a week. So just, bear with me, guys. It is happening. It's just happening slower than I ever anticipated, but it will happen. I need to clone me. Why, we talk about we talk about cloning, and I swear to God, why don't they give the people who need one a clone?
You know what? I thought I wanted a clone, and then I realized, no flipping way.
I do want one.
What
I
if
swear
your
to
clone
God.
has a bad attitude and starts pranking all of your friends?
Well, you know what? I don't care. I'm at a point. I'm 63 years old, so I'm at the point now where it's like
Right.
I need it. It isn't even a choice anymore, and I could care less. And you know what? If it's 63 years old and in the same condition I'm in, she'll just be cranky, and that's all I'll have to deal with.
She
So.
won't, because she won't remember all of the things that led up to that cloning. I'm telling you, she's going to start pranking your friends, eating all your peanut butter.
Yeah, see, that's a trouble, because I like my peanut butter. I don't know. I don't think I can deal with that very well.
I don't even remember the name of the movie. I just remember Michael Keaton had a clone. It was like, yeah, this is cool. And then by the end of the movie, I was like, yeah, no, I don't want a clone. I'm good.
What movie was that? I missed
don't
it.
remember. It was a movie with Michael Keaton. It was old. It was like back when he was still Batman, maybe. It was when I was
funny.
a kid, and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely don't want a clone. I don't want another me. Okay, this is great.
Well, the interesting part, now I don't want to scare everybody, but I was on the phone with a friend of mine, and she is probably one of the most amazing women I know out there if she's listening to my show, which she never does, by the way. I could spank her. She listens to Coast religiously, but she won't listen to me. Bottom line, I'm on the phone with her the other day, and she's telling me that she knows of people that have been killed and the clones replacing them. And I'm like, don't tell me this. I don't want to know that I have to die to get a clone in there, She goes, well, that's the only way they do it, I'm like, no. So, no matter how we're looking at it, apparently we don't get to be alive if a clone is in our place.
Look, I wish you could have saw my eyes as you're describing them. Because I was clicking articles on the internet the other day, not even intentionally, and something came up with one of the Beatles, having been replaced.
Right.
She said that there's clones, and I'm like, wait, what? I've heard of clones, though. I've heard of them, but she didn't say stars. She said people.
Oh, people. Yeah. Yeah, people. What's interesting is I've met guys in the military. This is really cool. This is so cool. I met guys in the military that swore And I know they're not lying to me because these guys aren't even contactees, right? They're in the military. They're working. One of them was working in Scotland at a base somewhere there. He was an IT guy. He was a computer dude. And he said he went to this town over in Ireland from Scotland on a weekend jaunt vacation, and he walked into this coffee shop and everybody said, "Hi, how are you doing?" They acted like they knew him, and he's like, "Oh, this is weird." So then he went down to later in the day they went to a restaurant, him and his girlfriend, and everybody's like, "Oh, hey, who's this?" They were all kind of wide-eyed, like, "Who's this chick you're with?" Right? And he's like, "Oh, he doesn't know these people from Adam," and they're all talking to him. And it turns out he grabbed one of the waiters and said, "Why are you guys all being nice to me?" He goes, "Well, you live here. What's the problem?" He goes, "No, I don't live here." And the kid looked at him kind of crazy and said, "No, you live here, and this is not your wife." And he's like, "Oh, no." And so it turns out he talked to the kid more, and it turns out that there was a guy that looks identical, like a total twin, same height, same kind of clothing, I mean, same everything, living there, working at a base in Ireland, and does the same damn job. And he's like, "Oh my God." And so he freaked out. And then he found out later, under a lot of hypnosis and regression and all this stuff, that he had been part of some kind of military program, and he could never get beyond the programming to find out what they did to him, except for that they were trained like super soldiers. And I said, "Well, honey, I think they cloned you. I really do. If they do cloning, they cloned you because you're a smart cookie."
I'm just sitting here with my mouth just hanging open. Like,
yeah, well, and this guy, I swear to God, he's such a normal guy. You would never think words like this would be coming out of his mouth. And I'm like, "I think they cloned you." And he goes, "Lorian," he goes, "if you had told me this, 10 years ago or 15 years ago when this, all started happening for me, I think it was 20 years ago that it happened, that he just put it out of his mind for at least 5 to 10 years because he couldn't deal with it." But then he started doing a little bit of research, and then he heard me talking about super soldiers on a radio show one day, and he called me and he says, I don't know what happened to me. Can you explain it?" And I said, "I think they cloned you. I really do. If they are doing cloning, then you were the guy they did." And he's like, "Okay." So he had to accept it, If it's real, if it's real, if it's not, it's not. I always tell people, hey, if it's real in this dimension, then that's great, as long as you don't have to pay their rent.
In this dimension, more than likely they've put it in a movie, a comic book, or a TV show or something like that. And that's usually our permission slip to allow it to happen. And they have a movie like that called Gemini Man.
Oh, yeah. That was a trippy movie, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And you're tripping me out right now. And nobody has permission to clone me. I'm just putting that out in the cosmos.
Yeah, me too. They don't want to clone me, though. They're like, "Oh, God, we tried to do her, and she was such a problem." She was such a feisty little brat that I'm sure that nothing came of it, But, yeah, things are so bizarre. Okay, let's get on to, let's talk about the Shadow Man for a while.
Okay.
Because I know that your dad started seeing it. Did somebody else in your family?
That was the main thing that was collective for my family.
Okay.
Was this Shadow Man. Now, it was like growing up, I would hear stories of it. Mostly it would bother my dad, which was weird because, if you're told it's like the devil or something, I expect my mom or us to see it. We were in the church and stuff like that, but he would see it. My dad was scared of it. My mom, not so much. So I heard about this experience in the house all the time. I did not experience this experience, though, until leaving my parents' home.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't experience
That's
it until I left the home. But it was like, I remember one time my mom said they were watching TV, just sitting there chilling, watching TV. And we had two doors. And the door we called the back door was our front door, but whatever, we called it the back door. And over by the back door, the Shadow Man was standing there. And my mom says, "Ruthin, do you see that?" And my dad's kind of like, "I don't see nothing." But she says, "I know he was lying because he looked right at it." That's when I realized he was scared of it. And then it went from there to hanging out in the hallway. Again, I didn't see it, but I knew to jump over that spot in the hallway when I was passing through. But my dad literally rearranged the bedroom furniture. where his
Oh,
side of the bed
wow.
was no longer facing the room door where he could see out in the hallway. He rearranged it to where he couldn't see in the hallway from the bed anymore. And him moving furniture is not common. That's something my mom would do. My dad was not a home decorator. He didn't move beds. He didn't do anything like that. But he just moved the bed where he couldn't see down the hall anymore. And then when my brother's girlfriend came to live with us, it was funny because this was, I believe, before they had any kids together. She said she saw this giant, tall man walk in, just shadows. So she said he was just shadows, but he's wearing his hat and his cape. And I was like, oh, yeah, that must mean you tangled to us for the rest of your life. Because I thought it was a family demon.
Oh my
I didn't
God.
realize other people had this experience. I literally thought it was something wrong with our family. That's why that documentary, The Nightmare, opened up so much for me because I thought it was just us.
Oh my God. See, isn't it a crazy world? You know, when I grew up as being very psychic and having all my experiences, I thought it was just me too. And it turned out it was kind of just me too. Because if you think about it, you know, how many people, I mean, at least people in your family were all having it with you. I wasn't having that. And I was really alone, you know. But I thought everybody could do what I could do. I thought everybody had the same powers, you know?
And that's usually where I make my grandest mistake. And then I get frustrated with people if I think they're capable of something and it looks like they're dropping the ball.
Yep, yep.
I'll
They're
get
always
frustrated.
yeah, I know the feeling, and it's on a deeper level too. It's like, um, I can't explain it, but there are just things that people do that you know if they're touched or not by an angel. I know that's a weird way to put it. If you've touched the face of God, if you've had an experience of love and light, or if you've had an experience with an ET, or near death, or the shadow people, or just being psychic and seeing ghosts, I don't care what it is, you are not the same as other normal people on this planet who don't have those experiences. And we need to learn patience with regular people because there's a what they call a commensurate gap or something. There's this thing that happens where they can never relate to us whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
It's like if I was Carl Sagan or somebody really smart talking to me, there'd be that whole thing of I don't have a clue what you're talking about, you know. And so there you go. I mean, we just have to be patient because we
Yeah,
are
I'm learning.
different, and there's that, you know. And
I
it's not
am
always a
learning.
blessing, folks. It can really be a curse. I'm
Oh,
telling you.
trust me.
But
Oh, trust me. I have
yeah,
went through the wreckage of life. I have, and literally, like just between last year and this year, I got out of that space of needing someone else. Like it was like somebody else has to be with me. I can't do anything by myself, especially if I'm by myself. Nobody will believe me, and da da da. And you need a witness, and this and that. And finally, I'm just like, it is what it is. Somewhere
yeah.
around like what April of last year, moving forward, I was just like, it is what it is.
That's right. You come to this place of just peace with it, you know. It's hard to describe. How old are you? Do you mind my asking? Are you in
I'm
like 30s?
41. I
Oh,
am
I thought you were a
41.
lot younger. Okay.
I
Well, yeah, you
know.
know, that's interesting you said that. I was about 40 when my whole realization took hold too. And I've talked to a lot of people. It seems to happen pretty much about like 36 to 44. There's that gap in there of 8 years that everybody I've ever talked to finally hits that place of just peace and reconciliation,
I've been
you know?
tracking a patterning with that actually, like looking into it, probably
Yeah.
because I need my own resonance. And one of the things that I found is like there are certain things that just are, and there are certain things that run on the matrix, the system. It's almost like we've been programmed with it so long that we just follow that pattern. And so one of the things I've been tracking is what is it that's so important about what we call a midlife crisis? And
Exactly.
when I went
Yeah.
back, what I looked at was this epic journey of in the Bible they have of like Moses. And it's like if you correlate this just with patterning, so many people heard this story in or out the church, they know this story, da 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 da. It's like from birth through 40, it's like our wandering through a wilderness. We're learning something, we're deciding what we want to be, who we want to be, how to transition. And that's why so many people break and shift around that
Mm-hmm.
40-year mark. They go through whatever it is, a Saturn return, I don't know. And then they start thinking, well, this was all fun what my mom told me to do and my grandma and my brother, and this was all fun what my friends wanted to do, but now I realize what I want to do.
Exactly. People come into their own about that age. I hate to say this, but I tell all my girlfriends, don't expect your husbands or your boyfriends to be catching this. They don't get it till they're 55 most of the time.
It happens.
It's
Trust me, I
weird.
have been there. I have my ex-husband here now. We live together and everything. We still friends and everything. But early in, when I was going through like just crazy, he didn't understand anything. It took somebody outside of me who didn't know me or anything that I experienced
Right.
in the house to confirm that for him to be like, wait, she's been saying that the whole time. But before that, it was just kind of like, okay, this one's a little crazy.
Well, I'm telling you, isn't it nutsy? I mean, well, okay, let's get back to the Shadow Man. Somehow we get off all these tangents. So your father was seeing the Shadow Man, and who else in your family was seeing him?
My mom, my dad, my brothers and sisters. It wasn't until last year I talked to my father's mother, who has outlived my father and my aunt. But I talked to her, and because of me tracking it to see how it
Right.
affected the family, I asked her if she'd ever seen it, and she said, no, I didn't, but my aunt has seen it in her house. So it kind of passes through lineages. It was in my grandmother's house, my father's family's house, our house. That's what made me start tracking like bloodlines, lineages, and stories. It was just there.
Interesting.
Multiple
Very
family
interesting.
members, multiple friends. So it was like different friends would see it, not just in our house though. Like I thought we were passing on the Shadow Man cooties. Turns out like this was just something people were experiencing.
I've never heard it called that before. You're gonna have to coin that phrase, okay?
I,
That's good.
if you know, I really thought it was us. I did. The strange happenstance of it was like 2019 when I started tracking this, through like different things. That's
Right,
when I
right.
found out like the Axeman in Louisiana, the Zodiac Killer, Jack the Ripper, some other guy I believe in Ireland or Scotland, some pastor dude, like they all had the same behavior, killing people, writing letters saying they knew they controlled the people after they killed them. And this
Right.
all has something to do with this, the one in the cloak with the hat. We call him the Snatcher. But
Oh,
it all has
interesting.
something to do with that same energy, right? And because I was tracking my family and I don't have a lot to go by, I don't know our history. And this is just a weird random story that shouldn't have been so coincidental. My father's name is Ruthin. It's not a common name. It was his dad before him and this and that. But I go to track it and I believe what I typed in was Ruthin and the Shadow Man into the Google search. And there was some
Yes.
king back in the day who was in a castle called Ruthven. And this was before any of my family, before any of all these other things. But he was back in the day. I believe he was a descendant of Robert the Bruce. And he was some
Really?
horrific guy. And he would, killing a lot of people and everything. But they said when he died, it was said that the night he died, a man showed up with a hat, a shadow man, walked in, played a game with him. He died. The people guarding him died. It looked like they had been burned with no explanation for why they was burned, and the nails had been pulled out of his shoes. So
What?
this energy can be tracked all the way back then, which my theory was maybe one of the reasons why we started wearing like a certain kind of hat and cape was because people almost like inciting fear in other people. If you fear me, you respect me. Who knows? Maybe this has been around so long that people started dressing like it because they felt like that was a place of power.
Wow.
But it looks like what we're describing in this day, even before Jack the Ripper's day, where he would be thought to wear that kind of hat, that kind of suit, that kind of cape.
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't know how far it goes back, Lorian, but I have
Yeah,
to
I
do
mean,
my
it,
research.
it could, there's so many explanations for it and so many misunderstandings of it.
His name was
Sorry, folks.
Alexander Stewart. He was the wolf of Badenoch. He died in 1490.
Oh,
It's written that he saw the same entity close to his death. So I just looked into that. So that was the reason why I chose the shadows. At first, they kind of freaked me out and I didn't want anything to do with them. But the older I got, the less and less there was a fear of it, and more just the space of I understood when I claimed my body and my ownership and my sovereignty of my personal experience, then whatever the energy was, it had to retreat. But when it first started at 18 or 19 years old, I didn't have any concept of that. So it was almost nightly that I was having to deal with these shadows, these experiences, these things coming into the room. And I put together all of the experiences that I had or people around me had, whether they were with me when they had them or outside of me, and just telling me about them. And it almost looked like something that was more common than I thought it was, while also not being an isolated event to me. So even living in Oakland and thinking just it was stuck to this area in Oakland, and then leaving from Oakland and finding out that other people, not just in California, but clear across the world, had the same experience.
well, I'm back. I can't believe this. Thank you for taking over. I was sitting here coughing and sneezing and
I heard. I
listening,
was
and it was
hoping you
so
were
good.
okay.
I'm okay. I can't believe this, folks. The first time in my entire radio career where I've had to tell the guest to take the show so I could sit here and have an attack. I was literally kind of choking. It was so bizarre. I wonder if it's the Shadow Man coming after me.
I would
That little.
hope not. You can tell them to back up. You know what? You can back up. I was just talking about that when you claim your sovereignty, how you can stop the experience.
Exactly. And I was listening and I'm going, leave me alone. Leave me alone. I've got a show to do. It was pretty
Because I
funny.
don't know what it is. I feel blessed of the different information that I'm learning just from this one trip to UFOCon.
See, guys, this is it. I'm telling you, you're my shining example, because I tell people, I put on UFO Con not to make money. I put UFO Con on so that people wake up to what's really going on out there, and help them find answers. See, everybody that was at that conference, and I know you'll agree with me, was at a different level in their contact or their psychic ability or their consciousness or their near-death experience or, whatever happened to them. And one of at least 14 people that went onto that stage at one point or another brought to them an answer they were looking for. It wasn't all of them.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't all of them. It may have been two of them. It may have been, four of them. Maybe they heard four people talk and they went, oh my God, I really love those four people. They really answered what I was looking for, right? And so when they're done speaking, they go talk to them, they get to know them, they read their books, and they help each other. They become like a clan, a community of people helping share their consciousness together.
And I think that's what it is, the resonance, because there was
Exactly.
a guy in the lobby, not far from where you check in to go into the speaker's room.
Where I sat
And
the whole conference, yes.
yeah, and there was a guy, he was kind of there, and he had the no to aliens, and this is this, and this is this. And keep in mind, I'm a channel. And
Oh, you're
I
talking
know,
about my buddy with the glasses.
yes, and I know
Yes.
you've got a similar thing with channels. And my thing is that even with my guides, the one thing with them is sovereignty. So
Exactly.
they if somebody comes and they want a reading, the first thing they'll say is we are not your fortune tellers. That's the
Exactly.
first thing they say. They won't tinker with probabilities. They've given me the science on why they don't tinker with probabilities. They always force me to operate in my own sovereignty. It's we'll talk to you. We can, go to this, but no, as far as sitting down and you should do this and move to Iowa, they're no, we're not going to do that. And so I'm having this conversation with this guy, and he was just the aliens are bad and this is happening. And I was well, not mine.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's what I told him. That's
yeah, it was a
exactly what
little
I said.
battle off for about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. It was so funny. It was like a little battle off, a little show off for about 10, 15 minutes. It was well, how do you know? And I was just kind of the way they engage with me and the way they speak. And, oh, yeah, no, they would never violate your sovereignty. So even it wasn't my job to prove to him. And all of a sudden, after this conversation, we're in the same resonance. And he gives me these books, and it was like he gives me all the books that I don't need. And my guide was like, you need the one behind the table. And I was like,
Oh,
well, what about that one? And he's like, oh, that one, we kind of just saved that one for specific people and this and this. So he has me read a page. I read the page. I answer the question. He was like, oh, okay, yeah, you are supposed to have this book. And he gives it to me. But what I liked about that was the fact that nobody ran him out of UFOCon.
no, I
He
would
had
never.
a different perspective.
That's right. Yep.
It can get scary if you don't know what you're dealing with, but nobody ran him out. And it was just like this space of like things that don't even seem like they fit together.
That's right.
They still fit together. Maybe the interaction with me was something of like, okay, so I fear something, but it's not necessarily her and what she has going on. Like with me, totally, I'm tired of calling people freaks. It's like, okay, there's some freaky stuff in the world, but I'm weird enough that I need to learn how to not judge other people and be judgmental. So we just had that little trade-off.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. And that's what I love about having him there. See, other conferences won't let him in. And I'm like, why? He's a good guy. He has his perspective. And I want everybody that comes to my conference, I want them to grow in many directions. I don't want everybody to go there and go, oh, this is so wonderful, and everybody has the same idea about how it's supposed to be. It's not how it is for me at
Yeah,
all.
because every time I hear somebody describe a reptilian, I always question myself, like, what the F am I and why have I not seen that kind of reptilian?
I thought you saw one.
I
Did you
have
see
seen them. They don't look like dinosaur monsters.
What yours look like people with scales.
They look like what people describe, only you know how like TV is not how it was when we were younger? Like everything is vibrant and high def.
Oh God, tell me about it.
Yeah, that's what they look like high definition, and they sparkle, and it's like if I were to see one, there's something internally within me that forces me inside of myself like a kill switch on the bowing. Whatever it is I'm seeing when I see it, my human almost instantly wants to bow, like we're in an old Kings movie or something, like Your Grace.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've never
that is
seen
really
the
cool that you
scary
said
thing.
that.
I've never seen the scary thing, but whatever is in me is like, stand your ground, do not bow. Do not bow. and, and so I won't. I don't. I'm just standing there like, and then over the years, it got to the point where I would be real bold in what I said, like, yeah, no, I can't speak with you because I don't know what's going on with you. And it's like that firm conversation.
Yes.
But I've never seen them like, foaming at the mouth and, looking like Gila monsters. Like, I've never had that experience. So I was wondering if it's the difference in what I'm seeing.
I'm starting to believe in my old age, after having lived a whole lifetime of this crazy, is that I think you draw to you what you need at the time to develop to get to the next level. It's that simple for me now. I mean, I know that sounds kind of short and simple and really just contrite, but the reality is we all get what we can handle,
Maybe.
you know?
I mean, I don't really want to see that kind of reptilian, but it almost made me think
Well,
that
honey, I'd
I
rather
was
see
wrong.
that. I'd rather see that than the one with the big teeth and 40 feet over my head looking at me like lunch,
Yeah, because they are big, and I'm trying to think if I've ever been in the presence of a reptilian that looked at me like food. Like, I've heard the stories. I heard.
Oh,
them
yeah.
hearing about reptilians, but they've never looked at me like they were going to eat me. There was something about my abilities that made them almost like quarantine me a little bit, like they did call us witches. Which later on I found that for me to hear that term, because they don't speak English, is a very rough guttural sounds that they make.
Right.
But that
right.
term means a seed. It means no matter how many books have been tinkered with, no matter how much science has been tinkered with, we told you guys to stay away from these gifts, and some of you continue to use them. So we can just see across the veil. We can see beyond reality. But for them, it's like, yeah, get the witches. And I'm like, witches? Why I gotta be a witch, though? Why?
Well, they have, we have names for them. They got names for us. It depends
Right.
what species they are and how they deal with us. I mean, when I was in that place of love and light, I didn't even have a name, and neither did God, because there were no names to be had. It was so profound that you don't need names. I don't even explain. It's like
It's
your
like
mind.
everything blends together. You're just the source.
Exactly. And it's so amazing, and the love was so intense that humans can't live in that state.
I was just going to say, I've been
Yeah.
bouncing in and out of that for quite a few months now. And that's what I've been dealing with recently. It's like this space of like bleeding out into this oneness capacity and bleeding back in.
Right.
And I don't think I'm meant to stay out. I think the bleed out is to better understand the people, places, and things around me, because it's not just humans. It's like trees, birds. Like you just feel different things when you
Yeah.
disperse out. And all of a sudden it's just like one, I don't know, one sound, one voice, one heartbeat. Like we're
Yes.
all in a body, but the heart beating sounds the same to us all. I don't know how to explain it. But
Yeah.
that's been my thing recently of bleeding out and bleeding back in. And like the things that used to tick me, for some reason they don't tick me anymore. And at first I thought it was making me easy prey. But then I started to recognize certain things get so agitated in the frequency, if they're not in alignment with it, they don't even want to be around you. So easy prey for what?
Well, that's true. Now that's an interesting take on it. Oh, wow.
It's like a love bomb, and it's like if something is not in a love space, they are not going to approach that nuke.
That's right. They aren't. Exactly. So maybe that's why every time that I've had something horrific going on in my life, I end up in that space of love and light. Um, it gives me enough. Well, actually, the first time it didn't. The first time I was so upset that I was back in my body, I tried to kill myself. But since then, every time that's happened, I've gained nourishment and sustenance, and I've been able to fight battles even better. So I
Oh,
hope
as you
that works
said,
for
that
you.
that was very healing, because I've been through the suicidal mode, and I've also been through the coaching and counseling. And it's funny because it's interdimensional.
Oh,
It's
me
not
too.
people with
Oh,
me.
yeah.
And one of the things that they talk about is learning to raise frequency and come back in resonance. Because they say if you're in a depression and you get out of it, you raise frequency, the depression or just a regular state can feel so heavy for you
That's right.
that you almost want to, jerk out and pull out. But especially for you, it might have been, and it might be, especially with all the things you're doing now, is the same thing that they're telling me, is like that higher frequency can hold the capacity of people that flood towards you when you start speaking without the overwhelm. So maybe that's why
Exactly.
you were going up and down, so that when you got to this point here, you would be able to sustain it.
Oh, absolutely. I tell you, I know the day it happened because they told me. They said, "We've given you a vacation." I was 53 years old, and we've educated you to this point where you can now do what we need you, what your path is, basically.
Well, I'm glad you
And
said you were 53. So I got to talk with somebody when we get off this radio show, because I'm 41 and mine is already starting right now. I'm
well,
like,
that's great.
how did she get to
See,
53?
but I'm telling you something, honey. It's. I tell everybody this all the time, and nobody believes me until about 5 years later. I get a phone call and they go, "You were right."
Yep.
It's it's like being in a battle every day. And when this happened for me, and I woke up and I realized what was going on, I knew I could never go back to just sitting here going la di da, and thinking I could watch, NHL hockey and football and enjoy myself.
Yes.
And I also knew that I had a responsibility every day of my life to serve God or whatever it is out there that's managing our souls on this planet. That we are actually in a battle for our souls, which fluctuates between good and evil. and were part of the war. You know, I look back on the Old Testament, and because I have tons of Christian friends, and they
Mm-hmm.
all say, you know, I do this all in the name of Jesus Christ. And I say, well, that's not the calling I got. The calling I got's more like the Old Testament, where there's battles with giants and horrible things going on, and you know, the earth is being destroyed. And I mean, I said, this is more like my life. My life is like Joan of Arc, you know, pre Jesus, you know, not pre Jesus, but you know, it's more like I get out of bed and it's like God's talking to me saying, hey, you got to get down to so and so today because they've got to kill a bunch of aliens, you know. Or whatever, and it's a whole different world for me. It's just like I live a double life, and that's the other thing
Oh,
that they
yes, I
told me.
know. I
It's a
know.
you got to have that professional life during the day or at night in my case, and you have to have this whole other world you live in, so you got to be happy with a dual personality running your engine all day long.
Yeah, yeah. Man, all the things you're talking about, I am like smack dab in that realm since about September of 2019, smack dab in that realm.
Oh, there
And
you go.
I was like, I got this. I'll agree to it. I said, if you guys could just tell me how long is this message? I can do it. They said 10
It's
years. I was like, 10
forever,
years?
sweetie.
Sure, I could do this for 10 years. Of course, but it got rough before it got easier. And
Yep.
almost as soon as it got easier, you got to think I've been on Eric's group and everything since I left UFOCon. Like
Oh,
I signed up at
fantastic.
UFOCon. And as soon as it got easier is when the call started to come in. And I was like,
Yep.
oh, look at that. Perfect timing. But I knew for years. I knew for years. I don't know why. It's like one of those weird things that you just know. And I was like, oh, one day I'm just going to be sitting around talking to people about weird things. And in my mind back then, it was like about God and the devil and spiritual attack. And then the more I got older and stuff, it was like, oh, it's the wholeness of life force. Oh, okay. So I think that's another thing with some of us. It's some of our minds are stretched in a way that we can experience outside of good and evil.
Oh, absolutely. Because
And they're
you
just
can't
using us as a
battle it if
vent.
you're stuck in the middle of it. That's what they told me a long time ago. You know, how can you do battle with something you don't even know that exists? Because if you're in the middle of it, then you can't handle it. I mean, you can't go to battle. It's
And
that
that's why
simple.
I like stories, because even though I've had experiences, I've had the UFOs, I've had the aliens,
Oh,
I've
we
had,
got to talk about that quick because we only have 10 minutes left in the show. So, so tell the audience a bit about the back porch.
oh, just kids. How old was I? We moved there at 9. So between 9 and 19, East Oakland, we stayed there and we would just see these lights. We didn't call them UFOs at the time. We called them lights. And they
Right.
would just, at first it would look like one big kind of like rainbow light spinning. And then it would pull apart in a, perfect triangle shape. It would move in a perfect triangle shape. So they would move together
Oh,
and
of
then they
course.
would
Yeah.
come back together. And that was common for us. It's still common. Like I haven't seen the triangle ones in a while. I've seen plenty of UFOs. But that was just common for us to see that the neighbors would come sit on the porch with us and see. It was almost like looking for fireworks, like the 4th of July.
You know,
And
you're reminding me of Eric's story because you remember all the neighbors would come out and look at the UFO over his house?
yeah, because you just don't know. At that point, I don't even think we processed that it was UFOs. I might have to hit up one of my siblings and think, because I know at that time I didn't believe in UFOs. I don't care how much TV I watched. I just didn't. But I know, I think we thought it was the government, because the government's behind everything.
Right,
Yeah, I
right.
think we thought it was the government, but it was just something pretty about it, something beautiful. I didn't get suspicious until my kid's grandfather one time was talking about them seeing a similar thing on the road, and everybody pulled over to look at it, and then they got back in their cars, and this whole string of cars that pulled over in the road. I think he said somewhere in like the Fairfield Valley or something.
Oh, wow.
They got
Yeah.
back in the cars and noticed that they had missed hours of time. They thought they got out the car, saw
Jesus.
the UFO, and it left. And everybody got back in the cars and saw that hours of time had been missing.
Now, do you know how many cars were in that incident? Because I have reports from people. What year did that happen,
I
by the
don't,
way?
I don't know.
Okay.
He is
How old were your kids at the time?
this was their grandfather, so my kids weren't even born yet. I don't even know if I was born yet.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, okay. Okay, so this was a long time ago. We're
All
talking
the
maybe the
strange things still happen
70s.
in the Fairfield Valley, though. I've been out there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Hey, I just got another report from a guy that said he saw a UFO crash there right when Obama was landing his Air Force One back in 2017 or 18, something like that. Not
Oh,
18, not six. I'm sorry. When was Obama in office? Was that 7 and 8 or
oh,
something
honey,
like that?
I don't even know. I'm
It was
sorry.
it was in the first year or so of his being in office. That's all I remember from the
So he
story.
got in there maybe around 2000. Had to have been '08, right?
I think it was '08. You're absolutely
So
correct
maybe it was
because
around 2008, 9.
yeah, it must have been 2009 because it was the year into his the presidency, and Air Force One was coming into San Francisco for something or other, and it flew over Travis Air Force Base and went on to something else and was right there in that valley, and right behind it came this UFO, and then suddenly the UFO did something strange and it was smoked out and went down to the ground out there in that valley.
Yeah, that
The
valley is strange.
military was out there within 20 minutes,
Yes.
cordoned off the area, and
Yep.
told everybody there was a gas leak.
Yep.
And
See,
my
I've heard
friends
those
saw this thing
stories.
go down. I mean, I swear
And
to
that's
God.
one of the reasons why I don't particularly try to summon them to my house or go into the woods. I will look up. It's sometimes I could just be sitting and something, but I go out and go outside, and I'll go outside, and it's like I didn't. It's like I felt it coming, you know.
Right,
And
right.
then when I moved to Sacramento, people would be like, "Oh, those are satellites. That's just satellites."
Oh, yeah,
And I'll
right.
be like, "Well, no, I don't think so. Like, I don't know. I don't know if
Because
you've
they're
seen a
making
satellite or not.
90
I don't
degree
think so."
turns and they've got 5 different colors. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are
And after
satellites.
after that though, after the satellite programming is when I started to get the phenomena of, "Are you a satellite?" And it would do that flare up like, "No, I'm not a
Hmm.
satellite, for crying out loud." And so that's even now the experience. I was sitting out with my friend on my birthday last year, and she comes over. I was like, "No, I see him all the time. Just wait." And we came in, went to the bathroom, we're walking out, and here's this one going over. And it flared up. I was like, "Yeah, that's how you know they usually flare up, so you know that they're looking at you." And it flares up
Right.
twice. I'm like, "Look, it flared up for both of us." And she was like, "Look, I think I'm about to get abducted."
Well, did she? I mean,
No.
I
But
keep
you know
telling
it's
you,
traumatic because
I
I share
keep
my
telling them,
abduction stories with people. So they
I
like, "I
keep
don't want to be like her."
Oh, I do. I keep telling them, honey, send me the good looking Palladian dudes that are really gorgeous, and I want too, right? I mean, if you're going to
I would
man.
never. I have nothing against the Pleiadians. Some of them have become friends, but I'm telling you, they be good looking dudes. And after they move you in and give you a steak, you're going to find out that they are some sort of reptilian that
Yeah,
make you want to bow.
probably. I wouldn't doubt it because that's what I've heard. I've
You're
heard
going to be
that
like,
that's
"Your
what
grace."
happens.
I don't know. I wish I could explain the body motion of my body. And I used to be so mad at them. Oh, I used to be so mad. And finally, I saw them helping spirits. And I
Ah.
was like, this is not what I thought it was. I thought these were evil snake people coming to kill people and stuff. But they were helping spirits out of the same space that the Zodiac killer talked about.
Now, see, that's an interesting correlation. Explain that to the audience how you came across that.
Yeah, I did. When you were taking your break, I walked right through that process of going through studying the serial killers and then noticing that in the 18 letters they couldn't decipher, the letters for meteorite was there. And that was the one space that I did understand between where we're sitting and this other place. Where it
Oh,
was
yeah. I
meteors.
caught that when I got
Yeah,
back to the
falling out
chair.
of the
Yeah.
sky, almost like the apocalypse. And it was Pleiadians, and it was a mixture of reptilian beings that helped them out. So again, I don't know. Maybe there's it's like humans, you know. We have different races, and different races have different tech, different goals, different extremes, different gods, different whatever. And so maybe that's what I've been experiencing. But before that, I was always scared. It took me years, all the way from 2010 until 2019. It took me years to give any trust to, because all the stories I heard was as soon as you see a reptilian, run. Now I heard this after I'd already saw a reptilian. So you could imagine I'm wide eyed like a doe, like, wait, those are real. It's like,
at that point, I'm like,
See,
stop
this is
talking
the
to me.
worst part, you guys, about going to my conference, right? It's like you go, wait a minute, and then when you're, pre-getting there, you're like, you're hearing this stuff, and then you get there, and then all the people in the room are like, oh yeah, I saw a reptilian, or better yet, I slept with a reptilian, and he's my
What?
husband. You
See,
know?
and for me, I don't. That's the thing. I didn't understand they was real or anything, but I know when I saw them, it was like I heard people describe them. I was like, I didn't see those kind. And I can't. It's a beautiful thing, but also not. It's something in our human DNA because I just know that I'm there. I'm standing in my power. Be strong. You know better. But my body almost wants to go like bow, like your grace, your liege. It's like what
Yeah,
is this? But there's always something like a different aspect of me saying, "Do not bow. Like don't bow. Don't
yeah.
bow. Don't give
Don't
over your
do that.
sovereignty.
Yeah.
Don't do." And then over time, we had this communication of like, "Look, I don't really know if you guys are friend or foe or not, but are we going to help these people out? Like, well, what do you think we were asking you for to help these people out? And the show is almost over. This is such a cliffhanger, a sucky thing to do. But a part of why they needed me to participate in that was because of a prior suicide attempt, where
That
a
makes
part of
sense.
me was stuck there with those people is how we were communicating back and forth.
Oh, wow. Now that's interesting. I've actually heard that from people who've had near-death experiences, and the people who had these experiences, they had experiences that were prolonged. In other words, it wasn't like 30 seconds or a minute. We're talking
Yes.
10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, here, which can be an eternity there.
Yes, it was
Okay?
it was years. And even now I'm having trouble because, my marriage is falling apart and different things and you're trying to explain this and people who haven't been through it, they just
They don't
don't
know.
understand
Yeah,
it.
they
They just
don't.
don't. But I was half in and half out. It was like there was an aspect of me here and being me and raising my kids and living. And there was this other me who thought the apocalypse hit and my family was dead. And by the time I got back into myself, my life is completely wrecked.
Yeah. Wow. Tell people how they can get a hold of you quick.
I am wigs at gmail.com or facebook.com/the poet I.
Or the poet I. Go. Okay, great. Thank you for being with me.
You're welcome.